Welcome to the Monday Method. I'm your host, Liz Mayer, life, career, and business coach, and I am obsessed with helping you create the life you love so you stop living for the weekends and start loving your Mondays. This show is dedicated to you women who do it all, from building careers to building families to becoming the version of yourself you love. This show provides you with the tools to get you off the hamster wheel of burnout so you can give what matters in your life the best of you, not the rest of you. Are you ready to create a life so good you look forward to Mondays? Then let's go. Well, welcome to today's episode. As I record this, it is the first full week of January 2025. So I am coming off of a long, luscious few weeks of no work, fun with my kids, fun with my hubby, my family. I have seen all the people. I have done all the holiday things. I've really just rested and relaxed. And as I was getting ready to shift back into the regular swing of things, I kept noticing these really funny memes on social media, like, oh no, everyone is swinging back. And it was funny because even when I taught my spinning class on Sunday, there were a lot of just murmurs of the Sunday scaries, right? Individuals just saying, oh gosh, one more day, or do we really have to go back? So, you know that this show is all about creating a life so good that you look forward to Mondays. So, I think it's really important to discuss the topic of why we feel scared to come back, right? So there's a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons this week may feel scary is because a lot of you, myself included, just came off of a week or maybe 2 weeks of a binge of all things fun, right? You probably had a lot of fun time with friends and family. You probably caught up on sleep. Maybe you actually took some time to practice self-care more than normal. So when you get to this week being the first full week back of January after the holidays, or even if you're listening to this and it's no longer January, maybe you're just getting back from a vacation or some time off, you may be finding that there are some ghosts of emails past that show up in your inbox, or there are appointments that were delayed until after the holidays. And now all of this work and all of these demands are desperate to find a spot on your calendar. So you probably are busy. And some of you, with this state of busyness, may be craving just a little bit more of a slower pace, right? Maybe you don't want to be bored, but you definitely want things to maybe just calm down. Maybe you're actually craving a little more balance. But here's a question that I have for you. How do you feel about the phrase work-life balance? If it is a concept you're passionate about, or you're constantly striving to achieve, why is that? So, do you love the concept of work-life balance? Do you strive for it? Or maybe you're completely over it. Maybe balance seems perpetually out of reach, like eating cauliflower crust pizza and pretending that it does, in fact, taste like pizza. Let's face it, work-life balance has become a goal for so many of you. But the reality is that it's actually kind of frustrating and elusive. So that's why today we are going to talk about work life integration. But before I dig into that, If you are the type of woman who prefers an upper lip wax appointment to starting the work week, then check out my free training on lizmayercoaching.com. This free training will teach you the key ingredients to having success and fulfillment. And what that means to you is you're going to experience a more integrated life without adding more to your already busy schedule. If success and fulfillment is important to you, then head on over to lizmayercoaching.com and check out that free training. Okay, back to it, y'all. So, work life integration, it's not necessarily a buzzword like mid or sigma or riz or skibbity or anything else that is coming out of my tweens' mouths these days. Work life integration is actually more of a mindset shift. And it's actually one that can help you create a healthier, happier, and more aligned life to your femininity. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more detail. So, first, I want to explore the origins of work life balance. I want to talk a little bit about why it feels impossible to achieve. And then I also want to share how this concept of work life integration, this mindset, could be the answer to what you're seeking. And then I'll give you some tips on to how to apply work life integration in your life. So let's first start with work life balance, a brief history, and why it falls short. So, work life balance is a term that traces back to the late 1900s. Actually, the 1970s to be exact. And it's a time when women were entering the workforce in larger numbers. And they were likely donning the Farrah Fawcett flip or a shag or an afro. Until then, work and life were often divided between genders, right? The husband, the man worked outside the home, while women traditionally handled more responsibilities inside of the home, right? As well as obviously the kids and all of that. But as these roles began to shift, as more women started running more than just the home, the term work life balance emerged to describe the need to juggle personal and professional lives without conflict or without having to actually ask your partner to go to the grocery store and maybe cook some dinner. So, the concept of work life balance is pretty simple. You keep work and personal life separate but equal, right? Balance, you think of that scale. If you're a zodiac person, you think of like, I think Libra. Yes, Libra is the sign of balance. So you're thinking of keeping things separate but equal. And the notion of separate but equal in the terms of work life balance works as well as it did for the concept of segregation, right? It just doesn't work at all because life doesn't always allow for clean divisions. Specifically, the more you grow in your career and the more that you have work demands, and then the more, quite candidly, you take on personally, right? If you become a parent, you have more responsibilities at home, right? If you become a vice president, if you get a promotion at work, if you take on more responsibilities, you have more responsibilities at work. And a lot of times those two things coincide with one another. And then, of course, work bleeds into personal time and personal responsibilities seep into work hours, right? It doesn't really matter if you're working. If you have a kid that's sick, you're going to get that phone call. If you have a home or you have an apartment building and something goes wrong, that is a personal responsibility and you're going to get that phone call. And it's going to be something that you need to really respond to immediately, regardless of if you're working or not. The other thing to keep in mind is that there's a lot of resources required to really truly address this strict balancing act, right? You need a lot of time, you need a lot of energy, you need motivation to do it. And you need other things, right? Like appropriate childcare if you're a parent, partner support if you're married, all of those things that are required to really stay true to this concept of work life balance where there's this equal division. Those resources are not infinite and they're not always even present. Time in particular is the ultimate constraint. Obviously, time is fixed. There's only so many hours in the day, and no amount of scheduling magic can change that, right? No AI tool can necessarily change that. Obviously, energy and motivation can be renewed, but only if you actively care for yourself, only if you're taking breaks, only if you have the support that you need. And if you're constantly running, like a lot of you are, from one task to the next, from one thing at work to one thing, at home, or if you have more than one kid, which is like five kids, then you're not likely to always proactively prioritize that self care and the renewal that you need in order to replenish your energy and motivation. Okay. Research, by the way, even shows that striving for balance, striving for perfect balance, can leave you feeling unfulfilled or worse, guilty and stressed when you fall short and you fail to balance and give things equal attention, equal time, equal energy. And who needs more guilt and stress? Not you, okay? That is not something that is going to serve you as you create the life you love. So, if work life balance is so cringe, then what's the alternative? Well, the alternative is work life integration, and it's not as much of an active act of balancing, it's a mindset shift. So when you think of work life integration, it's not just a word change, excuse me, it's so much more. So at its core, integration really rejects the idea of hard boundaries between work and personal life. Instead, it embraces that natural overlap. It's about really blending work and life responsibilities in ways that align with your values and circumstances. Okay. And I think if any of us transition from an in office working situation where maybe now we work 100% remote or we work more time remote or have increased workplace flexibility, this is actually an example of work life integration moving in towards the way that we treat, personal and professional tasks and just those elements of our life. So, when you're thinking about work life integration, what you want to think about is instead of asking yourself, how do I balance work and life? You're asking yourself, how does work and life, or how can my work life and my personal life coexist in harmony, right? And when you ask yourself great questions, you get great answers, right? When you start really determining how can you have a life where your personal priorities and your professional priorities coexist, then you become more creative with the solutions, right? Maybe your meetings that you have are walking meetings, right? Because you're being productive, but you're also moving, which is always good for your body and your mind and your soul. Maybe you're bringing your kids to the office when the schools are closed if you work in a setting where you can do that. Maybe you're using a mid-morning break or a lunch break to meditate or to, listen to a podcast or read something that develops you beyond your current day-to-day role. Okay. Those are just examples. But it's important, to really embrace this idea of really bringing your whole self into your life, which is what work life integration supports, right? You have a personal life, you have a professional life, because you're a human being. And all of that is showing up whether you like it or not as a human. And let me further illustrate this point. The reason work life integration actually works better for women in particular is how women are wired versus men. So I'm going to use an analogy to illustrate my point. And I'm going to talk about carbs because even though it's January, I still got carbs on my mind. So think of men like a waffle, or men are like waffles, okay? Men think in focused, separate efforts. Like if you think about a waffle, it has all of those little squares. That's how men think and process tasks, right? They might have a little square for work, a specific square for this project, a specific square for this project, a specific square for their relationships, a specific square maybe for fitness for their kids. Okay. Every area of their life are, in these little nooks, these waffly nooks. And if you pour syrup on a waffle, on a waffly man, that syrup will go into each of those little squares. Okay. So you pour it and it goes. And some syrup goes in more squares than others. You get the point, right? I think the point I want you to take away is like a waffle, a man tends to process information in tasks and separates it into different pieces. And that's actually why work life balance might work better for men because they are able to oftentimes focus and separate themselves. However, women are like pancakes. We think in more expansive terms. And when we see things, we see how everything is connected. So if you pour syrup on a pancake, it's going to go all over the pancake, okay? So think about syrup as being like information or responsibilities or tasks or anything coming at you. And it's not going into different compartments to be categorized, right? And focused on when the moment is right, like a man might do. For women, it's literally all coming in and it's all being really digested and reviewed holistically. And this is why women in general are able to see the big picture, are great multitaskers, and that's a topic for a whole nother episode, but often have a hard time pulling things apart, right? We're not able to maybe look at just a tree through the forest. We're seeing the whole forest, right? We're not looking at the syrup in the square and the waffle. The syrup is all over the pancake, okay? And that, my friend, that carb analogy is why the concept of work life balance is even more challenging for women because it assumes you're a waffle and you are a pancake. In other words, your work life balance concept assumes you can think in terms of those distinct buckets of tasks, but you're wired to take in and absorb everything and connect everything into a holistic picture, which is why you're so smart, why you're so good at strategy, and while you're able to absorb and feel certain elements that, maybe men don't pick up on. So, work life integration enables women to leverage our holistic perspective and our full life, all of the things in our life, right? So we're able to take in what's happening at work, what's happening with our family, what's happening in our relationship, our friendships, what's happening to our kids, right? What are we dealing with? And we're looking at it holistically. That helps us see patterns, right? That helps us connect the dots. That helps with creativity. It helps with connection. But because of this, you know, holistic perspective that we have, work life integration actually offers and suggests a more flexible, fluid approach to managing all these areas, right? to managing the entire pancake and all of the syrup. The key with work life integration is flexibility. And when I say flexibility, it means flexibility within your own mind. Okay. And we're going to talk about what others need to be able to do for you. But it's about being okay, potentially working on one thing and then maybe having thoughts come up about something else, or okay, shifting gears when you need to shift gears, right? And the other thing is work life integration focuses on outcomes and quality rather than rigidity and quantity. Okay. So when you think about work life integration, the concept of a 40-hour work week or a 50-hour work week might not hold as much weight, because if you're productive and you're effective and you're efficient, you might not need an 8 to 9 hour day. You might not need to sit at your desk for that long of a time to get what you need to get done all the time, every day. Okay. Also, work life integration, the whole concept, the whole mindset really recognizes and honors that life is unpredictable, and that really recognizing your holistic life and adapting to it is actually a strength, not a failure. It doesn't view you thinking or responding to something your family needs during the work hours as a weakness, right? Or that you're not serious about something at work. It really honors the fact that, again, you are a human with multiple roles and depth. Integration empowers you to blend those responsibilities that you have based on what matters most in the moment, what matters most to you personally, and what is right for you, rather than forcing yourself into these predefined boxes of, work time and, personal responsibilities. So the other thing I want to address, why work life integration is so powerful, is really the role of community when you think about the concept of integration. So, as implied in my comments earlier, work life integration isn't just about you. It's about the communities that you're a part of, right? It's about the people in your life, personally and professionally. So think of your life as an ecosystem filled with supporting characters. And these characters either add and support your ability to integrate, or they detract from your ability to integrate effectively. So, in your personal life, your ecosystem might be filled with, obviously, your family, your friends, maybe coaches or mentors, or individuals that help you get your shit done. Like if you have a nanny, or if you have maybe an individual that helps you care for your home or whatever. So it's all of these individuals that support you, and you might support them in some way, shape, or form. And then at work, your ecosystem is obviously filled with coworkers, maybe direct reports or employees, your boss, right? Or even, clients, right? That's kind of your work life. And your relationship to these people are crucial, right? The way that they support you and the way that you work with them is critical when you think of work life integration, especially during these high demand periods where your personal life doesn't stop because your work life gets busy. So, when we think about the role of community and integration, you have to really always be checking in to ensure that your community is supporting you and serving you in the way that you need based on the season that you're in. Let's say that you are a single parent and you're moving. Okay. A supportive workplace ideally gives you the flexibility to step away during your traditional work hours to handle the critical tasks that are necessary, knowing that your output is what truly matters, not the time on the clock. Now, obviously, there are certain work situations where you do have to be, you know, in office or you do have to be at a certain place. Obviously, if you work at the medical field, if you work in education, the flexibility looks very different. But if you are in an environment where it is more corporate driven, you usually are able to negotiate for better flexibility. Or if you can't negotiate, find a different environment that will support you. Work life integration encourages you really to lean on your community and to build support systems. And I know that can be hard to ask for help, specifically when you are so used to doing things on your own. But if you want to integrate better and you want to feel the satisfaction personally and professionally, you have to ask for help. You have to delegate tasks and you actually have to find environments and create environments where others can not only help you, but thrive alongside you. And this is another reason ultimately why work life integration works so well for women in particular, because our feminine energy usually tends to thrive when we feel supported and we're able to support others. So, lastly, I've talked a lot theoretically about work life integration and gave you some examples, but if you're ready to sink your pretty teeth into making work life integration really a part of your model, here are some ways to get you moving. Number one, audit your ecosystem. Okay. You're looking at that big pancake, right? Take stock of your personal and your professional relationships. Who is supporting you? Who is not supporting you? Where is your energy being supported versus where is it being depleted? Where can you ask for more help or maybe even quite candidly just adjust your expectations of people? Because oftentimes our expectations of others can be a huge energy drain when they're not met. What changes do you need to make? So, auditing your ecosystem is one of the most important things that you can do first and foremost. The next thing that you can do is you can blend tasks where it makes sense. So, look for natural overlaps, right? I gave a couple examples, but maybe you can complete errands, personal errands during a work break, or maybe you can incorporate more personal interests and things that you enjoy into professional tasks. So, where are there areas where you can actually stack the two? And not feel necessarily stressed, feel more productive and feel more efficient. The third thing that's really important is to focus on outcomes. And so, first and foremost, it's really important for you to shift your mindset from hours worked to results achieved. Okay. This is critical. First, you need to get yourself there. And if you are working in an environment where you might need to negotiate different workplace flexibility, you need to believe that you can deliver first. And then you can advocate for more flexible arrangements, with your employer that prioritize productivity and quality, right? And you can show that case and build that case. And obviously, if that request isn't, something that is, taken seriously, then audit your ecosystem again from an employer perspective. The last thing is to set intentional boundaries. And I have a whole podcast episode on boundaries, but I think what's important to note is that work life integration doesn't mean that work takes over your life, right? I'm not saying work life integration means sitting down at dinner and having a Teams call running in the background, right? That is really pointless. That's just going to create more stress. Really, work life integration is about creating boundaries that serve you as a human in the season of life that you're in. Okay. So, thinking about intentional boundaries, like where is their designated family time, right? Where are there screen free evenings? Where are there different Even standards are non-negotiables when it comes to um, how you work with employees, or do you have a no shitty client rule so you can keep your sanity intact, and what does that mean? So these are just some practical steps and considerations to really ensure that this mindset shift of work life integration is supported through your action. So again, audit your ecosystem, blend tasks where possible but not distracting, focus on outcomes, and set intentional boundaries. So the big takeaway: work life balance might sound ideal, but it's not always realistic. And it certainly doesn't necessarily serve the way that women are wired. Work life integration, on the other hand, really offers a productive alternative, one that's fluid, adaptable, and focused on what truly matters. Again, it's not about achieving perfection, it's about finding harmony in the ebb and flow of life. And bonus, it's aligned to your feminine energy. So this week, take a moment to reflect, right? Who's in your ecosystem? How are you thinking about, your work and your personal life? And how can you start blending the elements of your life that are most important for you so that you are successful and fulfilled and happy? Remember, it's not about balance, it's about integration. Thanks for tuning in. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who might benefit. And until next time, keep building a life where you look forward to Mondays. Ciao. Well, hey, friend. Thank you for spending time with me. As a thank you for spending your very limited, precious time, I want to offer you access to a free masterclass on how to create personal and professional success without burnout. You can access the link in the show notes or head over to lizmayercoaching.com and click on the link to access this free masterclass. Thanks again for spending time with me, and I cannot wait for you to love your Mondays. See you, friend.